Let's go to the story now. The case against Lonmin mine, now known as Sibanye Stillwater, is back at the CCMA in Rustenburg today. The mine allegedly dismissed over 180 employees without following the process. The miners are demanding payment of a severance package, compensation for unfair dismissal and other benefits. For more on this, we are joined by legal expert Thembelani Mpakathi. Mr. Mpakathi, thank you very much for your time. I'm hoping you can hear me. Is there any update that you can give us in terms of what's been happening in court?
Yes, thank you very much. I'm Thembelani Mpakathi, and I'm the legal representative of the employees that were dismissed in Lonmin. These employees were dismissed as early as 2009. But at the time, the employer did not give them notice as required by the law. When they were dismissed, they were just told to go home. The mine was locked. The mine and shaft was locked without any notice. Now, our laws are very clear in terms of how do you effect a retrenchment. Section 189 of the Labor Relations Act says that if you are contemplating a dismissal as the employer, you ought to inform and consult with those who are affected. And those who are affected in the main is the workers. And there is a process that it needs to be followed to make sure that the dismissal or the termination of contract of employment is done fairly. Now you'll understand that after 2009, we had a lockdown in South Africa. Now that has affected this case because it took very long for the CCMA to actually arbitrate and conclude on it. But very unfortunately, the employer has been very consistent, firstly, in not listening to the demands of the workers, secondly, in not wanting to meet the workers and negotiate. These delaying tactics has also seen us struggling to today's date to come and have this matter being heard by CCMA. So there's a lot of delays, but today at 1 o'clock we are hoping that we'll be meeting the representatives of the employer. We will table our demands. They are very clear. The employers want a compensation for what is supposed to be a severance package. The employers want a compensation for the unfair dismissal. This case is very serious because it does not affect only the labor relations or the workers, but it also affects the Constitution. It affects the right of workers to dignity. It affects the right of workers to fair labor practice. Now we have more than 184 employees of Lonmin that are sitting at home with no food, no work. Now one will understand what happened in 2012 in the Madagascar. These are the same employees that are still healing from the massacre that they were also, affected. So this is more of a repeat of the 2012 Madagascar. But this time around, workers have got lawyers. We have advised them not to be violent. We have advised them to be peaceful. We have told them that we're going to fight this case in CCMA. And if the attitude of the employer doesn't change, we will continue and take this matter to the labor court and possibly engage the office of the president, engage the office of the Minister of Labor, engage the office of the Minister of Minerals and Energy, because these are the portfolios that should be assisting the workers, because nobody cares about Marikana. Even after the massacre, the conditions of workers in Marikana have worsened. When I consulted with them, one of the employees broke into tears, crying, mentioning that because of the consequences of the effects of the dismissal, they have not been able to go home to see the children. So they've not seen children for 3 years. Some have even lost their wives. Wife has left. I can't hear you now. The workers are disturbing me behind me. But I think they also want to show their frustration. I'm not sure if you can see them. These are the workers behind me.
All right, I'm not sure if you can hear me in the noise, and I'm just wondering if, for instance, Mr. Mpakathi, if, for instance, there is a compensation that you're looking for from the employer or the previous employer only for the time that they were dismissed, or does it include this entire time that some of those workers have been unemployed? For instance, since 2012 to 2023, probably some of them have still been unemployed. Are you going to look for compensation that is for all these years?
Yes, look, our demand are saying for the time that the employees were working for the employer, if the dismissal is to be effected, they need to be given the severance package, which is the package that they are going to be getting for the termination of the employment. That has not happened. And that is supposed to be preceded by a consultation, intensive consultation, because you don't just dismiss, you also look for alternative ways, like rotation of employees, like changing of employees from one mine to another, like changing of even conditions of employment, instead of having them doing the same thing. So we want that. We are very clear. And I know the employer for a fact that they are willing to meet us halfway on that. But we must just get our calculators and agree on the amount. The bone of contention then becomes the fact that this termination was done wrongfully. It was unfair, and therefore they are supposed to be compensated for the unfair dismissal. I think that's one thing that today we're going to spend a lot of time discussing. And I hope that the employer will be genuine enough and able, because what we are demanding, I think it's fair, it's reasonable, and it's doable.
All right, Mr. Mpakathi, thank you very much for your time here on eNCA. Hopefully you are able to give us an update on when the court is going to make that decision, unless you reach an amicable solution with the employer. All right, that was Mr. Mpakathi. He represents those Lonmin miners, Sibanye miners rather, who were dismissed back in 2012, right after the Marikana massacre.